And we're back with part 2 of the biggest question that every NFL team needs to answer in 2024, this time focusing on the AFC. I did the NFC previously, so make sure to check out that video if you haven't already. A link will be provided in the description, but today we're focusing on the other 16. I hope you enjoy. The Baltimore Ravens. Can the O-line hold up? The O-line isn't always the most sexy part of the conversation to have, but let's just call it how it is. You need that to be successful in the NFL, and right now the Ravens are down 3 of their starting offensive linemen from last year, and who they're replacing them with is pretty inexperienced overall. And considering how important your quarterback play is, and how you just got Derrick Henry in free agency, your O-line has to be able to hold up and do their part of the deal to be able to make this offense as effective as we know it can be. We saw it happen last year when they played the Chiefs in the playoffs. It's part of the reason they couldn't make the Super Bowl when they ran into a great defense. Now, that could be even scarier heading into a playoff environment. So for the Ravens' sake, they better hope they can figure this out. Otherwise, this exciting season may end up getting flipped upside down. The Buffalo Bills. How will you replace the production of your departed receivers? This has obviously been the huge conversation behind this Buffalo team all offseason long. We saw them walk away from Gabe Davis. They traded Stephon Diggs to the Houston Texans, of course, and now they're left with a whole lot of big-time questions with this receiver position. Who's going to be that number one guy for Josh Allen to throw the ball to? And can any of these guys even be productive enough to be in that elite conversation to keep this Bills offense thriving? Josh Allen in the late season in 2023 put this team on his back, and I'm worried he's going to have to do more of the same, which could lead to him either forcing big-time mistakes or, of course, getting injured later down the line. So we're going to be looking at Keon Coleman and Shakir to see how they develop. If not, this Buffalo team's got to get creative with their wide receivers by committee and their tight end duo. The Bills are in a very interesting situation, and it feels like their window could be closing if they can't figure out this part of their offense. The Cincinnati Bengals. Does Joe Burrow avoid major injuries? The boring answer for sure here, yes, but let's call it how it is. We've now seen 2 different Joe Burrow seasons get derailed because of season-ending injuries. The O-line needs to do their job and protect this guy so he can be the franchise quarterback that leads them to the Super Bowl like we saw back in 2021. Something has to change. You can't keep wasting this guy's prime, and more importantly, your title contention window. Keep in mind, this Bengals team almost made the playoffs even with Joe Burrow not around last year. With him, who knows how far you can go, especially when remembering this is the only guy outside of Tom Brady to beat the Chiefs in a playoff game. So Bengals, keep your star quarterback healthy and reap the benefits. The Cleveland Browns. Can Deshaun Watson be the quarterback this team needs? This is it, Deshaun Watson. You have done literally nothing since joining this Browns team a couple of years ago. You have not justified them paying you all that money in the slightest. And right now is a better time than ever before to get back on the right track and be that guy you were in Houston. This Browns team is one of the most talented in their entire history. They have an absolutely stacked defense, and if their offense can at least be decent, they could be a solid playoff contender. And a lot of that is going to rely on you, buddy. You've been back in the NFL for a while. There's literally no excuse at this point. If Joe Flacco off the couch can lead your team to the playoffs, you sure as hell better be able to as well. Otherwise, we've got some big problems. The Denver Broncos. Can you justify your draft decisions? I mean, if we're being real, the major reason I'm asking this question is because they drafted Bo Nix early on in the first round of this year's draft. Felt like a reach to me, felt like more of a second round guy, but alas, the Broncos were very desperate for some kind of new quarterback after running away from Russell Wilson, and Sean Payton sees some kind of vision with this young kid. Now, it's hard to say if that vision will come true, considering this feels like a bit of a reach, not to mention the team itself feels like one of the worst in the league on paper, but maybe they see something in the guy, and if he ends up playing well for them, he will be the best quarterback they have drafted in a very long time. So for the sake of Broncos fans, let's hope that over the next couple of years this works out, although we may not even see him that much this year, which could further put this question on hiatus for the time being. The Houston Texans. How well can you build off a good year one? A similar situation to the Packers here for sure, as in they didn't have super high expectations, but they absolutely crushed it out of the park and even made it to the second round of the playoffs, and they found their franchise QB in just their first try with CJ Stroud. This guy's absolutely insane, and he's one of the most exciting QB prospects we have seen in recent memory. But now, of course, again, the expectation's going to be a lot higher. You made the second round of the playoffs last year, so why can't you at least do that again this year? Maybe not the most realistic way to think, but that's how football fans are. And CJ Stroud, let's not forget, he's a second-year player, and he is seen as the leader of the franchise. That's a lot of pressure being put on this one guy. Now, luckily, CJ seems like the type of guy that can fully embrace the spotlight and have no issue with it whatsoever. The talent is there, and he really does seem like the real deal, but all it takes is one underperformance in like the first round of the playoffs, or missing it in general, and you never know how that affects his mindset and the rest of the team. So just something to keep in mind. When you're a young team like this, things can go very right, but you could also have some really bad downs. The Indianapolis Colts. Can Anthony Richardson pick up from where he left off and make you a playoff team? The Colts definitely surpassed their expectations, just like their counterparts in the Houston Texans, and in the best way possible. The team still seems rather talented, they're competitive and in it until literally like the last week of the season, and before he got injured, Anthony Richardson definitely showed some promise. But obviously, he got hurt very early on, and the rest of the way it was up to Gardner Minshew. Now you're going back to him, and you're hoping that he can still properly progress. That means a drastically different way to operate the offense again. You've got to adjust back to how he likes it, and he didn't get a full rookie season, which is a lot of valuable learning experiences that he missed out on, so he's going to have to try and play catch-up here. This will be a very telling season for the Colts. Unfortunately, there's a lot of pressure on them to perform right now since they almost made the playoffs, and a lot of that's going to fall on Anthony Richardson to take them there, and I don't really know if he's ready or not yet. There's still a bunch of questions he has to answer. So how he does is largely going to affect the direction this team heads in, as they either try and still be competitive or look more towards the future as some of their top pieces get a bit older and either leave the team or regress. The Jacksonville Jaguars. Can you finally be consistent? So a bit of an asterisk goes with this, as obviously Trevor Lawrence had health issues last year that he was trying to play through, definitely affected the team's performance for sure, but at the end of the day, even so, Doug Peterson, in this era with Jacksonville, the last 2 seasons has gone 9-8, often relying on these early or late season pushes to remain relevant. They've been so streaky, and I don't know how much longer they can rely on that, as the AFC South is not nearly as weak as it used to be a couple of years ago. The Jags have to figure something out, and quickly. Trevor Lawrence needs to take that next step. He needs to be on the field as well. It's now your 3rd year doing this. You're the vets of the group still. You've got to get it done with the talent you have around you. Otherwise, I fear this team is gonna miss the playoffs yet again, and we're further gonna have to wonder what this team's future is. The Kansas City Chiefs. Can you pull off the three-peat? There's really not much else the Chiefs have to prove at this point. They've already proven themselves to be a dynasty by winning 3 rings in the Patrick Mahomes era, but now they have a chance to do something that has literally never been done in NFL history. So long as the main core remains together and you've got number 15 leading you, anything seems possible with this group. If anybody could pull off a three-peat, it's probably them. However, this is going to be a great challenge. Football is a game with so many things that can go completely and utterly wrong in terms of injuries, random things derailing your season, and only having one shot in the playoffs before getting eliminated. I'd argue, quite easily in fact, that out of the 4 major American sports, it is the hardest to win consecutively in like this, and the Chiefs have their fair share of issues they could be facing. Along with the competition out there, you think about how Travis Kelce's another year older, all of the distractions as of late with people getting arrested, the Harrison Butker comments, etc., or the fact that the defense may not be as strong as they were in 2023, and it feels like the Chiefs are in for one heck of a battle. And while they don't really have anything to prove at this point to their critics in terms of being a really successful franchise, because of that, they have to set the bar even higher than any of these other teams could dream of, and that's a lot of pressure. The LA Chargers. Can the Harbaugh effect outweigh the glaring roster issues? Let's not sugarcoat it. Harbaugh joining the Chargers and coming back to the NFL has literally sent ripple effects everywhere, and it has some people feeling extremely confident in the Chargers to make an immediate comeback as a contender, if not one of the most interesting teams in all of the NFL, while other people are not so sure because of the very obvious roster issues that present themselves with this team. Both sides make very fair arguments. Harbaugh, wherever he has gone, has shown a lot of success, be it at Michigan or when he was in the NFL previously, going to 3 straight NFC championships, including 1 Super Bowl appearance on the San Francisco 49ers. The success, the resume, it's all there. But at the same time, it's been 10 years since then. Football has changed a lot. The NFL has changed. You have to question if Harbaugh is ready to immediately adjust and just get right back into there as if he never left. And if that wasn't enough, he's walking into a pretty interesting situation with this Chargers team. While yes, there is some talent there, there's some obvious holes and issues that need adjusting, and 1 year may not be enough to seriously make a difference in that regard. People have been talking about the receiver situation all offseason, which is extremely fair. It's a new one they have to deal with. With no Keenan Allen or Mike Williams, the Chargers have to find a true number one target for Justin Herbert to throw the ball to. However, that's probably not even the biggest issue, as a lot of quarterbacks recently have shown they don't necessarily need a lot of weapons to win. If they have a good O-line in front of them, they'll find a way to get you that W. More than anything else, you've got to consider the defense. Yes, Harbaugh has shown that he is great at forming excellent defenses over his career as a coach, but the Chargers were absolutely horrendous. They've been horrendous when it comes to that side of the ball for years now. They've been in plenty of shootouts as of late, and their secondary has been so terrible. It takes time to adjust these things and get it back to a respectable level. Sometimes 1 year isn't enough. I'm confident, especially with a franchise quarterback, that he's going to figure it out relatively soon, but the idea of him doing it in just a single year may be a little too much. The Vegas Raiders. Is an okay quarterback enough to get you over the hump? I'll go out and say it. I am higher on the Raiders than I think a lot of other people are out there. I think there's some good talent on this team, and they were still almost able to be a playoff team last season, despite the terrible start with Josh McDaniels literally just sabotaging this team. With Antonio Pierce there, it seems like there's good leadership and structure now. Everybody's happy to be there, and it feels like this Raiders team is improving, especially with that defensive line with Christian Wilkins there looking more scary than ever before. I believe there's an outside shot of this team making the playoffs. However, it's all going to depend on offense, which has been a big issue for this team. Last year in particular, we saw it. The quarterback inconsistency hurt this team's chances a lot. Their answer to trying to solve this was by bringing in Gardner Minshew, which at the time I thought of as a really great signing. I loved what he did on a short-term basis for the Colts last year. However, it seems that so far in training camp, there's been a big-time QB battle, and there hasn't been any satisfactory results out of any of their guys, which is not a great sign. Whether it's Minshew, O'Connell, or somebody else, we need to see the QB situation get better. That QB room's gotta figure this out. This Raiders team isn't like the 2023 Browns, where the defense alone can carry them to some wins in the early season. They're probably going to play a lot of close games, and odds are it's going to be in the hands of one of their QBs to go out there and win it for them. And right now, there's some serious question marks on if that is even possible. I'd like to believe that it's Minshew, but it seems like this Raiders team has a long way to go. The Miami Dolphins. Can you avoid a slow start with potential defensive woes on the way? Credit where it's due to Miami. They know that they could be in a tricky situation on that side of the ball, so they've gone out there and they've drafted some good people, and they've had good camps like Chop Robinson. They've signed some other good free agents as well to try and make up for it. But even so, I have some concerns, especially in the early season, as some of their vets try and get healthy. Now, Jalen Phillips may be able to make it back for opening week, but as of right now, that's not certain. Plus, Bradley Chubb probably won't come back till around mid-season, so right at the start, you could be down two key members of your linebacking core, two of your best pass rushers and overall playmakers on defense. And that's not easy to replicate, even if you do bring in some new pieces. I'm concerned that the pass rush may not be there for Miami in these early weeks, leading to more of those stressful games that go down to the wire and are super high scoring that Dolphins fans would prefer to not having to keep going through every single week. Early on, some losses could end up piling up, which could make it a bit more difficult to compete for an AFC East title, which is obviously the ultimate goal, so they can avoid having to play in the cold like we saw them do against Kansas City. The New England Patriots. How do you start the next era? It's official. All parts of that New England empire are gone. Tom Brady's retired, Bill Belichick is gone, and in comes a brand new wave with Coach Gerard Mayo and potentially their next franchise QB in Drake May. What I want to see from this Patriots team is some kind of step in the right direction, as the last couple of years have been pretty brutal for them. You're not necessarily looking to gain it all back at once. I don't need to see a dominant season from this group to feel good about their future. But what you need is for Drake May, when he plays at some point, to show the flashes that warranted you drafting him at number 3. And you need to have some kind of unique identity to build around as you try and build this thing up and become a playoff contender in years 2, 3, and so on and so forth. Whether that be through Drake May making some elite throws or the defense continuing to be the staple, that's what I'm looking for from this Patriots team. If they just show some kind of improvement, something to feel good about, this will be a successful year. The New York Jets. Is a healthy Aaron Rodgers enough? All we had to hear Jets fans whine about throughout the last year is how things could have been different if Rodgers didn't get hurt on like that third play of their season. They still won like 8 games or whatever it was while he was out. They found a way with Zach Wilson of all people. Their defense is solid. Their offense should be more productive with Rodgers. It seems like it should be a no-brainer that this Jets team will be good if we even get a Rodgers that is remotely close to what we've seen in previous years. This Jets team has been missing a quarterback for years now. They're still young, but they've gained a lot of experience, and they want to be hungry to get to that next level without being hindered by a quarterback. With Rodgers, they could have such a thing. They could taste the playoffs finally, them and their fans. But the thing is, that's such a big what if. Aaron Rodgers is old now. He's 40 years old, coming off a significant injury. They've done their best to revamp the offensive line and keep him on his feet, but it could just be one play away from him losing yet another season. Not to mention that even if he does play well enough, there's a lot of pressure on you to win right now with the New York media, with the team you have assembled. You're not just looking to be a good team that's in the race for the playoffs. Aaron Rodgers and the Jets are trying to win the Super Bowl right now. And that window is vastly closing depending on Rodgers' age and health, amongst other things, and if one little screw-up happens, this could seriously blow up in their faces, which is why I wonder if a healthy Aaron Rodgers is seriously enough. It feels like it should be on the surface, but man, when you peel back the layers, you understand that things could get seriously dicey if just one little thing happens. The Pittsburgh Steelers. Is the offensive rehaul enough to put up points again? Let's not sugarcoat it. Pittsburgh are in desperate need of a team that can actually put up points on a consistent basis. It feels like since Big Ben's final season that they've had no way of actually moving the ball downfield efficiently. And now that you have 2 quarterbacks in there, maybe you can make use of the talent. Maybe you can actually be successful with them, plus a new offensive coordinator. And that would be great because this Pittsburgh team is still somehow, someway consistently sneaking their way into the playoffs or finishing above 500 despite some of the ugliest games you'll ever see in your life. It doesn't matter which one of them is successful, so long as somebody steps up, whether it's Russ or Justin Fields benches him for being terrible, we don't discriminate. If one of these guys can unlock the potential of an offense that has some seriously good playmakers on it, they'll be in a good position and they'll feel like a balanced team knowing that TJ Watt and some dogs are leading them on the defensive side of things. Seriously, man, this Pittsburgh team could actually be fun to watch for once. A balanced team that feels like they deserve an above 500 record. But quarterback play is currently standing in their way, and I pray that Russ or Justin Fields can solve that. The Tennessee Titans. Is Will Levis the guy? The Titans, despite needing to go through a rebuild, still seem like they want to compete knowing what they did through free agency. So that means they're going to need good quarterback play through their young guy, Will Levis, especially knowing that King Henry has left the building. And hopefully he can make use of some of the new weapons he got, like Tony Pollard, and of course, Calvin Ridley, who could potentially be his new favorite target. The thing is though, this Titans team has so many holes from top to bottom. They just don't feel like they should be competing right now. And that's going to result in a lot of situations where they're probably going to be down big early, and they're going to depend on Will Levis's arm to get them back into it and be the hero. And that could lead to one of 2 things. Either his confidence goes sky high, or he makes a crap ton of mistakes and his career goes down the toilet. It's a really unfortunate situation he has to be put in here, as it felt like he should have been more of a project to begin with. Now he's being rushed to try and be their guy and to keep them relevant when that shouldn't be the plan at all right now. So for his sake, we can only pray that he does well enough to not only elevate his confidence, but put the Titans in a situation where they're confident about their future. There's a lot on the line, and they've got a very young, unproven quarterback at the helm. And that is my biggest question for every AFC team. Let me know what you think down in the comments below. Make sure to check out the link in the description if you want to see the NFC video, and subscribe for more weekly NFL content.